All
Good
right.
morning. Good morning to Detroit and Black and White viewers. I am Vanessa Moss. We have Mr. Adolph Mongo and Mr. Allan Lengel. We have a fun-filled, packed hour with a whole lot of wonderful guests. I'm going to let Allan take the guests, but if you're watching this show, what we want you to do is like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you to like. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. What we it does is pushes us in the algorithm. So we want you to like, subscribe, and we want you to share. You can share our platform. You can look at our platform on all mediums: Facebook, Instagram, X, and Detroit in Black and White.com. You can watch all of our previous
YouTube,
shows,
Facebook.
you all of that. And we're on the corner of Michigan Avenue in Trumbull at McShane's. Welcome, Detroit in Black and White. Hey, D Love.
All right, and we've got a great lineup today. We've got Carl Marlinga,
Good
who
morning.
has held many positions there in Macomb County, including prosecutor and a Macomb Circuit Judge.
Right.
Carl is running for Congress and is running in the primary first, and then he'll be uh, we're assuming running against John James, which was going to be a great race. And country is it's a position everybody's going to be looking
Watching,
at,
yeah.
watching. Then we've also got Tammy Daniels from the Detroit Land Bank, who's going to be talking, give us an update. We haven't really heard much about the Land Bank. Then we've got Steve Goodman, who's been a classmate of Adolph and I, and he helps feed the homeless here in Detroit, and he does a lot of great stuff. So we've got a great thing, and we're gonna start out first. We'll start out with outrage of the week, and we'll start with Vanessa, and then we'll let Carl have one, and I'll jump in. Do you have any outrages?
I actually do. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I was here. Um, what's going on with the Detroit Conservancy? You have the CFO, CEO, Mr.
CFO.
CFO, Michael Smith, who they say has stolen $40 million over an 18-year period. Now they have his brown face
Quote.
plastered all over the newspaper, all in the news. But what about the people who sit on the board? How could this happen? The purpose of having a board, right? I sit on a couple of boards, is to have oversight. And so, why aren't those people being held accountable? Why is it looking like this guy stole money from the business owners, the people who gave
The
the
donors.
philanthropists, and the citizens, are harmed as a result. We're harmed as a result of the whole organization, as far as I'm concerned. Because you know what? When you have a board of people, and I think they said it's like, is it 40 people that's on that board?
There's quite a
It's
few.
quite a few. You mean to tell me you guys didn't do nothing for 18 years? That is outrageous. I think
They
that
went to they went to
be
sleep, Vanessa. They went to
they
sleep,
slept
and,
for a long time. They slept for
Well,
18 years.
well,
and
no,
we
it's
know and we
no,
know somebody else was helping him besides his family. Uh, Carl,
it's
you was a prosecutor and a judge. When a person that's being investigated for a crime start moving property and money to relatives, changing quick mortgages, etc. That's a conspiracy, right?
You can't steal $40 million without
Right.
having a co-conspirator. I mean, it is just tactically impossible. Somebody's got to be knowingly looking away. Somebody's got to be accepting the money through a funnel. I mean, it just defies reality to think that you could just steal $40 million without other people being involved. Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
do you have a budget where I mean you have $40 million? It's like, would you not need that money to operate? And apparently not.
Yeah,
Apparently they
apparently
had
not.
too
Right.
much
Forty
money.
million dollars was
They
nothing.
didn't need
Apparently,
that
right? They
money.
didn't need that
Yeah,
money. That is so
nobody was
ridiculous.
going unpaid. And when you talk about board members, that's a prestige appointment that a lot of them
Absolutely.
have probably very spend very little time on. But for him to do that, I know he was supposed to with the CPA and all that. He would be like they'd want access, and he'd be like, no, I'm just going to give you this, and he'd fabricate statements and stuff like that. But I'm sorry. There's somebody more involved, and it's not just
Somebody.
It's not just the
It's somebody's.
yeah. Somebody's. It's not just
It's some bankers.
the family-
It has to be some
the family
bankers.
members.
Somebody's
The family
playing
members.
fast and loose.
Yeah, I mean the family members are passive participants in this. I think in terms of like moving properties around, but there's somebody in there who looked the other way, who had to have said, we're bringing in all this money. This money has to be. It was, the money's coming in, donations, government
Right. funds,
and stuff like that. How do you miss? And Carl, you prosecuted
Well,
embezzlement cases, but 100,000 over 12 years, 2 million over, but 40 million is like, wow. That's
$14 million to American Express. $7,000 Louis Vuitton. How you not see those bills?
When I was an assistant U.S. attorney, there was a favorite jury instruction that we used in white collar crimes. You can't put blinders on. If you say I didn't know it, well, you might not have known every detail of it, but there are some things which are just so obvious that for you to say that you're not involved, it means that you had to put blinders on. And we use that to get convictions for people who passively were involved, had knowledge, allowed it to happen. They are just as guilty as co-conspirators. Now, I don't know who. I mean, that's
Right.
And I don't want to cast aspersions on any individual just because you were a part of the Conservancy, but it is just inevitable that there were people who were actively aiding and abetting this crime.
I join with you. I'm not saying anybody on the board, was complicit in this. I am saying that they were complicit in not taking their job seriously.
Yeah.
Because there should have been some oversight. That does not make any sense to me, and that is outrageous.
Yep.
Because
It sure is.
he's going to fall, but there's some other people that need to fall as well.
Right.
And really, they need to look at, okay, this is the board. You accepted this appointment as the board member. You applied, or whatever the case may be. This is what you need to do.
Clean the board.
They obviously look.
Wipe it clean.
They have to restructure that whole thing in terms of checks and balances, and the board members have to decide: do you want to be a participant? You just want your name being used,
Right.
Then you're off the board. We don't need.
Right.
We need an active board who's going to be reviewing
Right.
and questioning. And apparently they didn't have that because, like I say, it's a prestigious thing. Like, hey, you want to be on the Conservancy
Yeah.
board? And you're like, yeah, I'd like that on my resume. Why not?
Right.
Yeah, and the physical changes that you would expect. You go down and say, oh, that's a nice tree. That's a nice sidewalk. Did this really cost, $38 million? I mean, it's so out of proportion to what you could see was on the ground and in place that somebody had to say, okay, I can work up to like $1,200,000 in salaries and things we did, another $500,000 in improvement, but there's still $38 million. That just doesn't seem to have done anything.
Right. It's like, I don't know how that is so much money.
Yeah.
And for you to have an organization where that organization does not miss $40 million, first of all, what a waste of taxpayer money and waste of donors. Why would you even bother? It's like I wrote a column about it and I said, I'd rather donate to the human fund that George Costanza had on Seinfeld. He made up the human fund, and it sounds better.
Right.
So
Well, Allan, he did do some good. He helped keep American Express in business. $14 million.
That would be a good closing argument for the defense.
I would put out my credit
He
card
don't even need an American Express card. All he had to say was Will Smith, and he can get anything.
It's a lot of money. So Carl, do you have an outrage?
I have an outrage of the week. Actually, it's gone on now for several weeks. And my outrage about it is that nobody is appropriately outraged. We see these TV advertising. If the Democrats and the Republicans are guilty as members of the House who use money that was supposed to be for the franking privilege to communicate with voters. And they pay for billboards. They pay for TV commercials. And these are not communications with constituents. These are look what I have done, give me credit for what I have done.
Right.
And they're not providing any information. They're not getting any information back from the constituents like the franking privilege was supposed to do. And there are millions of dollars, Democrats and Republicans. Everybody in the House is guilty of this. They're using public money for self-promotion.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know in Macomb County, we have an ordinance, an ethics ordinance, where if you use county property to promote yourself, you're in violation of the ordinance and you get fined. But here, members of Congress are spending our money, our tax dollars, to promote themselves shamelessly. It doesn't say vote for me, but it clearly makes sure that you know, I'm getting credit for this. This is using public money for private, political, personal purposes.
And Shri has been criticized.
And my opponent, John James, is doing it well, but as well. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this isn't just my attack on John James. It is because he shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
But the defense is, well, but the House rules allow it. Okay, well, change the House rules. This is nuts.
They're not going to change it, Carl. You know they're not going to change it.
Drop so we can get Tammy better.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, but anyway, I mean, it's going on, and my outrage is that people aren't just saying, "Wait a minute, this is crazy." You can't allow politicians to take our tax dollars, turn it into private commercials, and say, "Well, that's okay because the House rules allow it."
Well, it's bullshit. It's like there's so much stuff in Congress that they won't touch. I mean, look, the PACs are really just such an absurd way of getting around all the campaign financing that instead of the limits of what is the limit exactly? Like
$3,300 for the primary, $3,300 for the general. So one person can give up to $6,600. But if you want to donate to PACs, there are some limits, but some of these PACs are unlimited because they don't come up with vote for ads. It's educational ads, which are the same damn thing,
right?
You know,
but you know, Carl, don't you remember there was candidates that had donors that was 6 months old. They was writing checks to the campaign. So they're not changing anything.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And we've got Tammy Daniels joining us from the Detroit Land Bank.
Good morning.
And good morning. Tammy, do you have an outrage?
Oh, wow.
You know, I put you on the spot. If you want to think about it, I'll do one.
Yeah, because
I'll come
I
back.
need to do his.
Mine is.
Let me. I got an outrage. There's a candidate in Grand Rapids, Republican, running in the 8th Congressional District. He made a commercial using Martin Luther King and endorsing him, saying, "I'm back from the dead. I have a dream that Anthony Hudson is going to be our next congressman."
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
And was that done through artificial intelligence? Did they actually have
they sure did.
Wow.
So it's unbelievable. He said he had nothing to do with it. It was somebody in the campaign. But yeah, Martin Luther King, and then he had the nerve at the end say, "I approve of this message," you know. But had Martin Luther King voice saying, "Now that I endorse Anthony Hudson, I'm going back to where I came."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. Disgraceful.
Where did you see this? Where did you see it?
It's in the local paper online. Put Anthony Hudson in there, Republican candidate. He has no shame, and you know, Carl, John James has no shame. You know, a carpetbagger that moved into Macomb County, and I hope the Democrats get their act together and give you the support that you should have had 2 years ago. You would have been the incumbent. Instead, here we are. We fighting another battle.
Yeah, I think that's coming. You know, I just keep on adding to my list of things that people in Macomb County would not appreciate for Mr. James. You know, one of them is using the House money, public money, to now advertise for himself. We wouldn't do that in Macomb County if he were a local county official. He never paid back the $2.7 million PPP loan that he got. And he had the money to pay it back, but because there's this loan forgiveness, he never did. He got fined by the FEC for using using campaign money for private purposes. And the list just continues. And of course, the thing that I always say that we know he's really not, I mean, he now says he has a home in Shelby Township. We don't know that for sure. But nobody from Macomb County would ever vote to allow oil drilling in Lake St. Clair, and he's done that as well. And
Wow.
so there are these number of things which show that he's just so out of touch. And I think the latest one is using House of Representatives. Now, I'm not saying it's illegal. I mean, he's taking advantage of something, but a person who really understood our values would say, look, I know it's legal, but I'm not going there. I'm going to use my franking money to communicate by mail with voters so that when I get an inquiry, I can get back to that person. I'm not going to use it for advertising. He just doesn't get us.
All right. You know what? We're going to take a break and finish up our outrage of the week. We're going to take a commercial break.
Because I live in Detroit, I was able to get tuition-free college through the Detroit Promise. I feel very fortunate working with the Detroit Promise. They were able to afford me so many opportunities. I'm currently studying media production and journalism at University of Michigan Dearborn. I'm looking to take my talents further into the production industry, short films. I love working with people here, and this is where I want to be. And that's why I'm Detroit for life.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Okay, we are back here on a Saturday morning here at Michigan and Trumbull at McJane's Irish Pub. We've got Tammy Daniels and Carl Marlinga, and then we've got our usual Vanessa Moss, Adolph
I'm
Mongo.
not usual. Don't listen to him. I'm not usual. I am
She's
unusual.
extraordinary.
And wait a minute.
Extraordinarily
And
unique.
so much so when y'all hear what I'm going to do at the end of near the end of the show, you're gonna say she's right.
All right. Okay, we'll get to whatever you want.
I know.
And so I'm going to do my outrage. My outrage is the Supreme Court ruling, the 63 ruling on the bump stock. I
Oh
think
my God.
2017, nobody really, I mean, except for gun people, nobody knew about this bump stock until the Las Vegas shooter, this crazy man who apparently his father was on the FBI top 10 list and he wanted to outdo his dad as a crazy man. He opened fire on a concert, outdoor
Right.
concert, killed about a little over 60 people, wounded more than 400 people. And so the bump stock, suddenly people were like, basically, it's a device that you put on there that changes the semi-automatic essentially to an automatic machine gun, semi-automatic like AK-47 should be illegal, but machine guns are illegal. Now, the ruling was, as Sonia Sotomayor, who did the minority writing, said, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. And basically, the other side, I think it was Clarence Thomas who wrote the majority, was saying that because you have to, every single time you have to hit the trigger, but it's like you hold the trigger, it fires like a machine gun. It doesn't matter technically.
800 rounds a minute, Allan.
Yes,
800 rounds.
Semantics don't matter here. And these people, we're trying to make the world safer. We're seeing mass shootings in schools, everything. We see a lot of times, not every time, we see a lot of times AR-15s are used, semi-automatic, rifles are being used in these mass shootings, which should not be allowed. And now we have machine guns where people can get a bump stock like that guy and get maximum kill.
Yeah.
What is the point?
Yeah.
The guy who made that bump stock has become a very wealthy person. The gun shops they should voluntarily take it off in, these mail order places. It's bullshit. It's so offensive.
But they're not, Allan. They're not gonna do it. The NRA and all these lobbying groups, I don't know why a person need to have a machine gun or automatic weapon. As a former military person, semi-automatic gun is ridiculous to have in your possession. Well, who needs it? Are we at war every day? You don't go hunting with those kind of weapons. All it is to use to kill folks. Drive-by.
Right.
Some of these people are got more weaponry, firepower than the police departments.
Absolutely.
You know what? But speaking of Clarence Thomas, for me, when I read it, I said, I wonder how much money did he get out of these people? What kind of gifts did he get? I mean, we already know that they paid for his son that he no longer has a relationship with, paid for him to go to school and all these other things.
Bought his mother's property.
Right, bought his mother's property. But for me, I was like, what? Have they given him some money? And guess what? We can't touch them. They're not going to do anything about that. That is outrageous.
They blocked in the Senate.
Yeah.
The Republicans have blocked any effort.
Oh, absolutely.
To try to, monitor this and try to force them to be as ethical as the lower court judges. The lower court judges, the district court judges, they have ethics standards, and the Supreme Court has none. And we're like, oh, let's not touch them. They're, it's total bullshit.
And the hypocrisy and the purposeful ignorance of the Constitution displayed by these conservative justices is astounding, especially for a group that says that they go back to original meaning, plain meaning, strict interpretation. When the Second Amendment was written, there were single-shot muskets, single-shot rifles, single-shot hand weapons. And there's been case law that it developed over the years that, well, it applies to things that are traditionally used for hunting and self-defense. So meaning that machine guns were clearly not in the purview of the framers of the Constitution.
Right.
The Second Amendment the framers would say, well, this is nuts. First of all, these are all state options. The Second Amendment was only meant to apply to the federal government. States could do what they want. But secondarily, they would say, but no, we did not mean that everybody could own a cannon,
right,
that everybody could have whatever kind of weapon they wanted. We wanted traditional firearms for hunting, safety, self-defense. But the justices who will talk about plain meaning and original intent in other contexts just blow it out of the water. They doesn't even they're so shameless that they don't even mention that.
Right. Right.
And it's ironic that this ruling came out at a time where they're tearing down the school in Texas where 16, 17 kids was murdered while the law enforcement stood and did nothing. Unreal.
You stole my outrage of the week because I was going to talk. I'm sorry. I was going to talk about the politicization of the Supreme Court and how I believe the veil has been removed. Like they've always been very political. I mean, these are human beings, but now they're just emboldened, and Trump has.
Now they don't care.
They don't care. They just Alito can't control his wife, but he should be able to tell women what they can do with their bodies, and it's just ridiculous. And so it really, I think we're at a very bad time in our country because the powers that have been in place to protect us are now creating laws.
Well, the checks and balances are gone.
But what's even sadder is this: you have so many people. You're on the political trail. I'm on the trail. Contrary to popular belief, there's so many people who do not even participate because they don't think it matters.
Well, they don't believe
that
in
is
the integrity of it.
Outrageous.
Well, in fairness, though, they don't believe in the integrity of the process. When you have judges, completely ignoring the reality, like trying to interpret the Constitution that was created.
But Tammy, we always had judges that did that. We always had a Supreme Court that made ridiculous decisions. We didn't live under it. I was born in it. We can look at the 50s and the 40s. Listen, it hasn't been perfect, But
No.
it seems like this court is blatant. It says,
they're
I'm going to take all the money I can and I don't care.
They're more
Right.
activists and they're taking on cases that they historically would not have taken on.
Right.
And so now we're getting a lot of rulings from the judges that they probably should not be opining. These
And
cases should be.
They all lied about the Roe versus Wade. That
Yeah.
when they're asked about it, they say, "Well, it's law, it's established law. Of course, we
They
accept
couldn't
that."
wait.
But
And
I,
then, right.
yeah, but I think that those people who have opted not to participate, they need to understand by not participating, you're not forcing their hands. You're not holding them accountable. If you
to
say,
vote for
listen,
them.
I'm not right. Listen, I'm not going to participate, so I don't care. But then when it impacts you personally, you're like, what the hell? I have a story recently with someone in my family. I'm like, look, get off my phone with this. Remember, you didn't participate the last time.
Mhm.
But now you're talking about how did this guy become the congressman of the 13th district? Y'all know who I'm talking about. I need to have a conversation with them. I don't feel comfortable. You don't get to have a seat at the table, bro. You don't get a chance to have a seat at the table because you didn't participate. Now, if you're telling me that this day forward that you're going to participate, then we can have a conversation.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about Carl. Carl, you got the endorsement of the Detroit Free Press. Do you think that matters in your race, or how do you see the endorsement?
It matters. I mean, look at it. If you don't get an endorsement, politicians will always say, well, the people make up their own mind. The free press is important because when in these days of toxic political advertising and big money on TV and all kind of false charges and false claims all over the place, people are looking for a reliable third-party validating source.
Mm-hmm.
And the free press is that third-party validating source. And I love this interview. By the way, I've known people in the newspaper business in the past, but I walked in and these were all new faces. All right?
Great.
And so I had like 8 people whom I never met. Well, I talked to a couple before, and there were a couple of reporters. And I'm saying, oh, this is interesting. And then it was an hour of the most intense political discussion I've had maybe ever. It reminded me of a law school a class where everybody was throwing questions. And I walked out of there feeling invigorated because this was really an intellectual exchange talking about real issues. And then when I read the endorsement, I would be almost embarrassed for myself if I wrote this for myself because I'm thinking, wow, they really like me. Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, I know the selling fields line, but I think it's important because look, elections are decided by a narrow margin now, somewhere between 5 and 10%. Sometimes, well, my election the last time around, Mr. James defeated me by less than 0.5%. And so,
how many votes was that?
That was 1,600 votes out of 330,000 votes cast.
Wow.
Okay, so it was so very close, and so third-party validation with reasons from a respected source is huge because this can be 3 to 4% of the vote,
Right.
And so I'm really honored because it came from a process which I said was one of the most rigorous intellectual exchanges that I've been involved in politics. So I don't feel like, well, they kind of thought I was okay, and they said, but no, they asked everything, and they asked the third and fourth follow-up questions, like on my proposal to have a loan program where you have no interest, where when people are selling their homes, they can get a loan to fix it up. And therefore, when they sell it, they can put in maybe $10,000 from the loan, sell it for an extra $20,000. They get to then have more equity when they're buying the new home, wherever they want to go. But the home that they've left behind is in much better shape. And one by one, we can improve the neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of questions on that because they thought, my God, I think this is a good idea. And then they asked me all of the follow-ups to see if I thought it out, and I have. And so I feel really good about this because I was talking substantive issues, not the usual political stuff back and forth. And they were insightful enough to keep on asking. And when they believed me so as to put out this endorsement, I thought I'm on the right track. I really I really am talking to people who care, and when I get their endorsement, if I get their endorsement, it's going to matter. Maybe not to 80,
Yeah,
90.
I have you.
Yep.
Have you interviewed with any other media outlet?
No, I have not had the interview. Waiting for the Detroit News. They haven't come around to ask for an interview yet. I know that Nolan Finley is a conservative, but he's also a very serious person, and I look forward to an interview with the Detroit News because, again, I think that ideas matter, and I think that that's my whole mantra this time around. Well, it's always been is that but politics can be a game. And it can be fun and it can be vicious. It can be a lot of things. But also, we got to remember that we're talking about doing serious things to make the lives better for people. And that at base, you have to have serious ideas and good policies, and you have to be willing to be challenged on them and questioned. And I think that Nolan Finley is the type of guy who, even if he would disagree with me, if he sees that my reasoning process is sound, I think I have a shot at that endorsement as well.
Let me ask you this, Carl.
Yeah.
And then we're going to take a break.
Yeah.
My question is, you didn't get much of a backing from the Democratic Party in the last election. Is that going to change this time?
Yeah, it will. There's a representative, a buyer from Virginia, who is the head of the DCCC recruiting committee. And he actually, a couple of months ago, apologized for the DCCC and the Democratic Party not coming in big time. They just thought that the seat was unwinnable. And then when I finished with no help from them, basically in a tie with John James, they said, we learned our lesson. We got to pay attention to local knowledge. All politics is local, and you've got a standing in the community that we just didn't recognize, and we're going to make up for
Was that because of Andy Levin had said that's not winnable? Is that
well? I mean, Andy said it, but there were also polls showing that Andy would lose by about 9%. That Haley Stevens, if she moved in, these are both great candidates.
Right.
Haley would lose by about 9 or 10%, and so there was substance to people thinking that this can't be won.
They can't do one.
But they didn't do their Carl, they didn't do their homework. You a brand in Macomb County. You a brand. People know you. People from both sides of the aisle vote for you.
And by the way, I got to put this in.
Sure.
In presidential years, when I run, I get a big boost from the independents and ticket splitters. In 2016, when I was last on the ballot, when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were on the ballot, Trump got 224,000 votes. Hillary Clinton got 176,000 votes. I got 249,000 votes.
Wow.
All right. And so people from both parties will come to me. And so my saying is that I have John James on my turf in Macomb County, and in my cycle, a presidential year, when the ticket splitters and independents will break heavily for me.
All right. Well, we're going to take a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and talk to Tammy Daniels from the Detroit Land Bank.
Fellas, I'm new in town, and I've been here a couple times. I absolutely love your place, man. But I've got to ask you, if you can, I've heard that you're going to be shutting this place down.
I'm not proud of it, brother, but we're behind our property taxes. The county is all over us, man. I'm even afraid to even give them a call.
Well, we can't let it go, brother. I mean, we can't give up. There's got to be a GoFundMe campaign that we can run, even pass the plate. Is there a forgiveness program or something that's out there?
Well, unfortunately, that's only for the big guys.
No, actually, Wayne County has payment plans for everyone.
Are you for real?
Yes, it's a well-designed program. We want to help you save your business.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you have delinquent taxes on your home or business, contact our office, 313-224-5990, or visit our website, treasurer.waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Got it.
Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
Being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough. I am now able to work for a reputable airline. Detroit had my back, all because I live in Detroit.
All right, we are back here. It's Saturday morning at Michigan Trumbull at McShane's Irish Pub here. We've got Tammy Daniels from the Detroit Land Bank, and we're going to get to Steve Goodman a classmate of Adolph and I from Oak Park High, who we're going to be talking about his work that he's doing with the homeless, to feed the homeless here.
Awesome.
But
Okay.
Tammy, we
Good
haven't.
morning.
Good morning. Thanks for coming here. We haven't heard much about the land bank. Can we get a little update on what's going on with the housing stock and where you guys are going with it?
Absolutely. So, we have been working feverishly to dispose of all of our remaining structures. So we have a little over 2,400 structures
Oh,
left
wow.
in our inventory.
And what did you have when you first started the land bank?
So there were something like 44,000
Wow.
vacant, abandoned structures. Our inventory was north of 100,000. And so between demolishing the houses that cannot be saved and selling those that can, we have depleted our inventory significantly. And our goal is to be structure free within the next 18 to 24 months.
What percentage of that total, like over 40,000, what have actually been rehabbed and what have been demolished?
So we are, we've demolished, the land bank demolished about 15,000, but we're now well over 25, 30,000, coming up close to 30,000 houses that are gone. We have sold 18, 19,000.
Okay.
And we have achieved compliance, meaning we have torn up our reverter interest, and that person owns that house free and clear on almost 11,000, almost 12,000 houses.
So, Tammy, the land bank is a nonprofit organization. You heard me start off talking about my outreach. You guys have oversight, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And is your board very engaged? Tell us about how.
So the land bank is a quasi-governmental entity created between the city and the state. So we are not quite a nonprofit, but we sit in that space. We have a 5-member board. They are very active and engaged. We have committees. We have, they vote on they vote on our internal procedures. They vote on transactions that fall outside of our programming. So we meet monthly. It's only 5 members, so they're very aware of what's going on. And then we have internal processes, and we are, as a result of what's going on, I know a lot of organizations are doing a temperature check on our own internal processes. We do that every year, but we're going to do a deep dive just to make sure that we have our processes line up with the best practices in the industry, because our goal is to use all of our resources for the betterment of the city, not for the betterment of someone.
So what happens when the land bank is, your inventory is depleted? Does the land bank go out of business, or do you find a new mission?
So we have only 2,400 structures, but we still have 61,000 vacant lots. So the inventory is still, we have a significant inventory. We're still by our numbers are larger than any land bank in the country. So we are actually undergoing a effort right now, a 5-year planning process, where we are working with our fellow government stakeholders. We are seeking out input from our residents to understand, like, where do they want to see the land bank in the next 5 years, and that plan will be probably released by the end of this year, early next year. But we are starting to shift our focus on our vacant land inventory. Like, how do we dispose of it? We have programming right now where you can be a resident and buy a side lot for $100 if the property is adjacent. If you are within 500 feet, you can buy the lot for $250. And we've disposed of over 27,000 vacant pieces of property through our programming, but we still have 61,000. So we work very closely with the city to partner and figure out ways that we can activate this land and put it back into productive use.
So let me say this. I think our viewers appreciate the fact that you come here and you're very transparent. And I think in light of what was happening, I thought it was a very good question to ask you about where is the land bank in terms of checks and balances. In reference to the vacant land, you said that if you could buy a side lot if you own property. What if you don't own property in those areas?
There's still
Is there still opportunities for people to buy vacant land even though they don't live in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. So our side lot and neighborhood lot programs are programs geared toward the benefit of Detroit residents. So though if you are a Detroit resident, you get those preferred programs and at that preferred pricing. We still have other sales mechanisms where we can sell vacant land to people who don't live in a particular footprint or they don't live in the city. They can still purchase. They just have to go through a different process where they have to put together a plan.
Mhm.
They have to articulate what their goal is, what they're doing with the land. And in some cases, they may need to work with our city department to make sure that their plan works with what the city rules.
Have you had an interest from foreign countries? I know for a while, Chinese interests, they were buying up a lot of cheap homes on the east side there.
Yes.
What kind of interest are you getting in from what countries?
So I've been with the land bank for it'll be 10 years in January, and when early in my tenure, we did see a lot of foreign investors, a lot of people, from China, in England, all over the world purchasing. But the vast majority of our sales are to Detroit.
To Detroit.
To Detroit.
I have a question for Tammy. Since the opening of the train station that was renovated and redeveloped, has there been an increased effort by folks to buy houses now in the city? Or have you seen an upswing of inquiries to the land bank?
No, so the inquiries have always been extremely. We get last year we got almost 70,000 inquiries about property or some program at the land bank, and so the train station opening may have some sort of impact, but it's not driving up our numbers substantially because we don't really have a whole lot left in this footprint. Everything in Corktown in this area, we have a very small inventory here.
And where is the biggest inventory, right? Is there some areas of the city where you've got huge inventories?
So there's on our website, there's a map and you can see our entire inventory. We have property all over the city, but I think our largest volumes are probably concentrated in districts 3 and maybe in district 7.
And where would that be?
East side, deep east side, that's Councilman Benson's district. So Gratiot, East 7 Mile, East 8 Mile, kind of bordering some of the suburbs right there off of 8 Mile. So yeah, but our inventory is really our vacant land inventory is really all over the city.
And let me say, for people who want to buy a home and don't have a lot of money, what's the minimum that you could get a home, fix it up, and what type of loans are available, and what actual cash do you have to get in?
So our sales are we have an auction and an own it now type. Those are our two premier sales vehicles for structured property, and you can purchase a house from the land bank for as inexpensively as $1,000. What I tell everyone is that land bank houses are not move-in ready. They are not for the faint of heart. They require a substantial investment, whether it is sweat equity or money, to get them to the place where they are livable. But they are still. What type of
the average? Let's say you buy a home for $1,000. What's it going to take to make that habitable?
So we have over the years we have adjusted our requirements so that, because initially our requirements were much more onerous on purchasers, and they were hesitant to invest a substantial amount of money because we always had this right to take it back. So right now, what we require when you purchase a house in the land bank is that it remains blight free on the exterior, that it's not boarded, that the grass is cut, that you have a intact roof and porch system that you can enter, that you have a working kitchen, a working bath, you have hot water, heat, and that if you had to live in it, then you could while you continue to rehab it. So that we estimate that investment is probably on a good house, probably 25, 30 grand. Most of our buyers don't have that cash sitting in a bank account. And so they are financing their repairs, check to check. And we work with them. Our average purchaser is in our compliance pipeline for a couple of years because they don't have cash sitting readily available to buy a furniture to, replace the porch. And so we are particularly sensitive to that, and we try to work with people. As long as they're making progress toward that goal, we continue to work with them.
Okay, great. Okay,
Tammy, thanks so much for coming.
Yeah,
We
thank
always
you. Thanks.
love having you here.
And people
Thank you, Tammy.
We thank you very much.
Yes.
And we hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right,
Have a
thanks.
good one.
And don't be a stranger, Tammy.
Absolutely. I'll be back. Whenever you need me to come in, or if I have a program I want to highlight,
Yeah,
I'll give you
that'd be
guys
great.
a call. Thank you so
It's
much.
a great program. So
Okay.
thank you so much. All right, let's take a break here.
Because I live in Detroit, I was able to get tuition-free college through the Detroit Promise. I feel very fortunate working with the Detroit Promise. They were able to afford me so many opportunities. I'm currently studying media production and journalism at University of Michigan, Dearborn. I'm looking to take my talents further into the production industry, short films. I love working with people here, and this is where I want to be. And that's why I'm Detroit for life.
All right. One more commercial. Are we ready to go? All right. I guess we are back. Thanks again, Tammy.
Back Detroit in black and white. If you are watching, like, subscribe, share. Like, subscribe, and share. We're here every Saturday at McShane's on the corner of Michigan Avenue and Trumbull. We're here from 10 to 11 o'clock. If you want to come and participate, please do so. We do acknowledge those that are participating and they're typing in their outrages and those kind of things. We'll try to get it in. There was somebody who said that their outrage was that Satan was coming into town. And he's a convicted felon. I think they're talking about the guy that formerly occupied the White House. We appreciate
And
that.
occupied Allan's mind. He's in Allan's head.
He will be at a church at 4 o'clock today on Stansbury called
180. Yeah.
180 Church. And then they're having this crazy convention down at the Huntington place that includes Trump, Steve Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. They've got an all-star lineup, which, I mean, the church.
And the guest speaker, Allan, is Lucifer. He's the guest speaker.
Yeah.
He's the guest speaker.
I would say that he's trying to encroach and trying to court the black voters here in Detroit. But that conference, the church, he's going to try to work that, but the conference is not going to draw. I mean, that crowd is not one that would appeal to black voters.
Well,
he's gonna have a few black Negroes for Trump. Sitting in the back,
right behind him.
Listen, there are quite a few black folks who belong to black churches that are conservative that support him. I know some of those people.
Yeah.
So,
why do you think they support him?
Because of their religion, what they believe in, and they believe
Because
that.
they believe he's a
That's what they
he's
believe.
a thief. He's a thief. He's a criminal. That's unbelievable. Listen, fuck Trump. I want to talk to that guy next to you because he's doing a hell of a job in the city.
Steve
Goodman,
who I grew up with. He has a program where he feeds the poor. Tell us about.
Well, how I got involved with this program
What's
was,
the name of the program, first of all?
well, how I got involved was Heart to Heart Detroit.
Heart to Heart
Yes,
Detroit.
so
Okay.
that was Larry Allan, president of this organization, and a bunch of Oak Parkers that were helping this mission, and starting at Hart Plaza and running through all the streets of Detroit. So we got to 8 Mile Road, and whatever anyone needed, we were there to give them food, clothing. I know bus tickets were being passed out, and then of course once we got back to our office, I wanted to continue and go out to Pontiac, and go back to Detroit. So of course they said you're on your own, and I ended up going back to the Detroit Rescue Mission, and Oasis, and Genesis, and Hope of Detroit, and Chatsey Condon, and Motor City Mitten, and then I said let's do some stuff for Pontiac.
Okay.
So I ended up at Grace Center of Hope there, and Baldwin Community Center. There's a ladies and men's facility out there.
And you, I saw you at the Star Bakery one morning, and you were picking up, was it Dale? They were giving you Dale.
So Star Bakery was fabulous, and anything I needed, as much as I wanted, just come on and take. This is the original owners, and it's had it since 1915, over 100 years. And I could pick up as much as I wanted every day, so I could keep on feeding everybody on my end that I wanted.
Kaiser rolls, onion rolls, rye bread.
Steve, let me ask you this.
Well, Allan, I have a question for Steve. Is hunger a big? Go ahead.
You interrupted me. Just as
Okay, well, go ahead. You there? You need to talk. Go ahead.
Sorry.
So you provide food for the hungry, right? For the homeless or the unhoused, as I like to call them. Are there other services, like wraparound services, that you guys provide, like social workers, helping them with housing?
That I had no, mine is moving as fast as I can. I'm just trying to get the food and other essentials that I can put into the facilities. Like some of the facilities, like Detroit Rescue Mission, is feeding 600 meals for morning, afternoon, and evening. So as much product as I can get, I'm taking it there. Same thing with the facility over on the east side on Percival or St. John's. There's 100 guys that are in that facility.
Okay.
Motor City Mitten, she was putting up from the entire winter over the facility in Centerline, a church there that was housing hundreds of individuals. So as quick as I'm getting the product, and Star Bakery is where it started, but now Diamond Bakery has also given me product, and I got connected with Starbucks.
Oh, wow.
And that has been huge.
What have you been getting from them?
They have been giving me all their incredible product that they are selling to the,
Like
so
sandwiches, breakfast.
I'm
moving everything myself.
Wow.
I'm doing all of this 100%.
Wow. And you doing this every day, all day?
Not every day, all day. It's whenever Starbucks is calling me, I'm running over.
Okay.
Why you don't have help from cities like Detroit or Ferndale or whatever, Pontiac? Don't they have some kind of support teams that help individuals who volunteer to feed folks and clothe people? Have you contacted anybody?
They do, but as quickly as I'm getting the product, I'm just moving it as fast as I can.
Wow.
Because it could come at any time, just like Starbucks, for instance. Right after I leave here, I'm going to be going to their location, and whatever they are willing and giving me, it'll be moved within an hour.
Oh, wow.
That fast.
Like, what do they get? Tell us some of the
They're giving
items
me their sandwiches. They're giving me wraps, breakfast. There could be desserts in there also. Same thing with Star Bakery. I'll be there tomorrow morning, and Diamond Bakery, and I'll be getting all their product, and that'll be moved.
And what are they giving you? Breads, rolls,
desserts, fries, challahs, all the great stuff that
In Star Bakery in Oak Park, they're still baking.
They're baking all the product for Diamond Bakery.
And you just go in every day and they say, here's...
Right now, we're just doing it on Sunday. I'm getting product just from them on Sundays.
And is it day old? Is it basically day old stuff?
It's the stuff that they haven't sold.
Are you giving it to any churches? Are you giving food to any churches?
Now, there's some product is going to churches. I'm spreading it around, so not just one organization is getting all of it.
So any given day when you're collecting product, how much product do you get? You have a van, a truck, or
moving
what?
everything in my car, moving everything in my vehicle.
Wow.
I'm moving it in a 20-year-old Mercedes.
What do you like? You get 20 loaves of bread?
No, there could be 100 loaves.
100 loaves.
100
Wow.
loaves.
And so they in all these places you're giving to, are they grateful that?
Oh my God! Everybody, every day, it's incredible.
You're the miracle worker.
No, we're feeding a lot of people and helping out.
And are you providing for heart to heart as well? Still, or
Whatever heart to heart needs, I'm willing on giving them. Right off the top.
Okay. And Larry Onyx, another person we all grew up with, and Larry's done an amazing job with Heart to Heart here in the city of Detroit.
And it's been amazing for me that if I need anything, all I have to do is ask, and he's, we're walking in the warehouse and take whatever you want.
People are not aware that Steve is also an expert in Motown sounds. We're gonna have you back on to talk about your connection to Motown.
Oh, definitely, for sure. Last night it was the Temptations at the Andiamo Celebrity Showroom.
Oh, really?
And if you want to see them, they're playing tonight out there. They're doing 2 shows.
Oh, well, they all dead, Steve.
Otis Williams.
Is still living, right? Otis is still living.
Otis Williams. 82
Otis couldn't sing when he was alive.
He is alive. You talking about when
he is?
Yes, he's still living.
He's with them.
Yeah.
He was there last night.
I was going to hear from them.
Right.
So Steve, we're going to wrap it up. But how did you get started? How did this all begin?
I kept on asking Larry all the time. I'd love to be involved, and didn't allow me to come on, and then Mark Jacobs would have been the one that was pushing.
Okay.
So that's how it all happened.
And you've got it. Yeah, it's great. It's great work that you're doing. It's really pretty cool that you're.
Yeah, and the need is so great in our metro area, but it's really all over the entire country. Unless we see what goes on.
And do you have any places that are actually any butchers or anything, any meat products, or is it primarily baked goods? And
it's all baked goods.
It's baked goods. Okay.
Well, Steve, you're our unsung hero in our community. Thank you so much for giving.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Adolph, for having me. And
volunteering their time and their talent. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all the guests, Carl Marlinga, Tammy Daniels, Teresa, Jim, Vanessa, you got something to end the show with? Go ahead.
Yeah, Karen Winston, thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and sharing. We did notice that. For all of those that have been keeping abreast of what's going on with me, you know that I was challenged. I did for my run for 36th District Court. It was a matter of finances, if I want to take this matter to court or not. They wanted 20, as we say in the street, 20 bands, $20,000. That's not happening. But under the law, I can still run, and I am still running. It's going to be a write-in campaign. It's a whole lot of work, but don't tell me that it can't be done. That's why I say I'm extraordinary. It has been done. Most recent history, we had a write-in for the mayor of the city of Detroit, and he was quite successful. Am I up for the challenge? Absolutely. Am I out? Absolutely not. Am I running? Yes, I am. I am currently trying to make sure that I get the right information from the right people, which is the state of Michigan. I still have not received any information that I've asked for via email, but hopefully I'll have it in the next couple of days. But Vanessa Moss, 36th District Court, write-in campaign. Karen will be having a meeting soon. For those of you that are volunteers, we need you to get other people to come in as volunteers. We're going to be successful. We're going to win this thing. All right.
All right.
Well, thank you.
It's definitely a challenge.
Oh,
But
you know what? It is a challenge, but let me say this. The challenge is that a lot of, I mean, because we have the process where you shade in the circle, a lot of people don't want to write. A lot
right,
of people don't even vote for judges on the other side because it's so much on the ballot.
right.
But do I think it can be done? Absolutely. You're just going to turn on the other side. You're going to see 3 names, circle one, right in the other.
All right.
And it's
And
a matter of getting my name out there. It's a matter of people knowing that I'm running. So,
Well, you got some
And ask the senator from Alaska. Ask the senior citizen from Alaska, because she ran as a write-in and won. That's our show for this week. I'll be back in Detroit next week, and I want to thank everybody. See you next week.
see you. Thanks, everybody.
All right.